From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. I've been thinking a lot lately about the pain and sacrifice that will be required to meet our challenge. The challenge, of course, being defeating the current fascist regime in the United States. The idea that we need to come out on the other end of this thing with a better world, not just falling back on the old models that got us here in the first place. So, building a new world out of this broken one, and how to deal with the sacrifice required. So, some thoughts. The 2025 shutdown, it really tested how much pain we're willing to suffer. And it wasn't much. The Democrats folded like a cheap tent. And yeah, there was pain. There was some sacrifice. There were food banks. People were having trouble feeding their families. There were people out of work. There were federal workers required to show up but not get paid. The airline industry was about to just collapse. And in another couple of weeks of a shutdown, it may have. So yeah, there was suffering. And I think we all knew that going in, or at least we should have. But the regime just proved once again how ruthless they are. They're perfectly willing to allow people to suffer. The Democrats weren't. They didn't have the same spine. And of course, people were very upset, calling the Democrats weak. I guess the positive way you could spin that, you could say, well, at least they have a heart. They're not willing to pay the ransom to the regime who was just very willing to let hostages die, right? So where does that leave us? We're just going to surrender every fight ahead of time, knowing how ruthless the regime is? Well, I guess we can't fight that. No. We still need mass boycotts and strikes. And we have to know that it's going to hurt. People are going to lose income. They're going to lose jobs. Services will stop. Shelves will be empty. The so-called economy will take a hit. But that pain isn't a failure of the movement. It's the necessary price of transformation. Systematic change means sacrifice. Comfort and privilege, material and political, have to give way. So we have to change the way we approach this thing. We have to do everything we can to mitigate the sacrifice for those who really get hurt. I mean the people on the lower rung. I mean the people who really have trouble feeding their families. We can't let that be just the status quo. Now, regarding sacrifice, regarding pain, then there's the other great portion of us who need to be willing and able to shoulder some of that pain and sacrifice. Because it's not just the top 1% or even the top 10% who are benefiting from the current status quo. It's a pretty big percentage, 30, 40% of the population benefits from our current system. The profit system, the capitalist system, the way our economy and society are structured. Maybe they have stable salaries, pretty good jobs, maybe even some investments. They profit from serving the system. And that group will resist change because the system works for them. So in order to get those people to join us in our fight for justice, they have to know they're going to give up some of that comfort, some of their luxury. And those who don't will suffer, and we have to be willing to be the cause of that suffering. So it's not just about protesting. It's about changing the world. It's about affecting people's lives. Big old boycotts, big old strikes, if they work, people's lives are going to be changed, and we have to go in knowing that. But I believe strongly that we can do this while protecting one another, protecting the most vulnerable, and yes, hurting those who need to be hurt, who need to get the message. And the good news is we don't have to sit around and wait for permission. We don't have to win some great battle to build a new and better world. No, that's kind of the whole point of this. We build the new model of living, the new model of economy right now, immediately, while simultaneously withdrawing energy from the old model, the capitalist model, the profit model, the ones I keep hearing people say they want to jettison. This is not a radical idea anymore. I see it in my feed. I hear it from my friends. I just hear it out in the world. People want to put, the really very simple phrase is people over profits. That's a really simple idea. So let's just keep this simple. People over profits. Now that means creating a parallel economy. Again, not waiting for permission, not waiting to win some great revolution and then building this new world. No, build it now as a means of destroying the old one. There are three very familiar and proven ideas I want to talk about for a minute. The bank, as in food bank, the library, and the commons. And they're all within the greater model of universal mutual aid. So let's take these one by one. The food bank. Got real familiar with food banks during COVID, and then we did again during the 2025 shutdown. But I really want to think of food banks not as some emergency, but as an everyday infrastructure, accessible to everyone, sustained by everyone. I think we should start seeing food banks not as charity, not as some desperation, but just as normal civic institutions, just like schools or post offices. I think the food bank needs to be a model, and it should be expanded. So it's not just food, it's any perishable or non-reusable goods. So it's food, hygiene items, diapers, cleaning supplies, underwear and socks. So under the mutual aid model, members of the community are always stocking and replenishing. Members of the community come in as they need these goods. So I'd like to see the bank model expanded and accepted. And as a way of protest, the way this fits in with the boycotts and the strikes, the more we rely on each other, on these alternate systems, the less we need to rely and be dependent on the for-profit models. So let's move to the library. Library model, kind of self-explanatory. Go to the library, check out a book, bring it back. Easy peasy. Expand that idea. And this is no big original brilliant idea of mine. It's already happening. Any physical, non-perishable item you may need in your life, books, tools, furniture, musical instruments, appliances, even clothing. Anything that's returnable and repairable. Repair culture is key to this. So we mend and maintain rather than discard. Every town, every neighborhood can have libraries. Again, all based on mutual aid, community participation. And it's absolutely vital, these ideas, for supporting each other while we use strikes and boycotts to bring down the regime. It enables us to extend these strikes and boycotts for as long as they're needed. And then indefinitely, because they become part of the new world we're creating while we destroy the old. And then the last one is what a lot of people refer to as the commons. And that's a very simple concept: shared space. So the commons basically is any place you share with other people when you walk out your door. The street, the sidewalk, the park, the commons. Now expand that idea a little bit. Now it includes community gardens, open transit systems, bike shares, a cooperative internet, because it's not just physical spaces, it's virtual spaces as well, open source software. And then extend the idea one more time into personal services, things like childcare, elder care, health care, transportation, haircuts, performing arts, whatever. Think of the Black Panthers of Berkeley in the 1960s. With the foundation of mutual aid, we can expand our thinking of food banks for all perishable goods, libraries for all non-perishable goods, and the commons for all shared spaces, including virtual spaces and even including public services. It's all about participation rather than consumption. Everyone contributes, everyone benefits. And it serves to protect ourselves, protect each other from the pain and sacrifice that would otherwise be caused by indefinite, long-term strikes and boycotts, which are absolutely necessary to bring down the current power regime. Right? Now, I know what you're thinking. All of what I'm talking about relies still on the profit system. Well, somebody has to go out and buy the food to bring to the food bank. Yeah, that's right. They do. I'm completely aware of this. It's going to require resources. Maybe some people with more resources than others. And then it starts to look like a traditional charity or a nonprofit. But we got to change our mindset about that. The idea of a charity, even the idea of a nonprofit, those models still belong to the moral logic of the old profit system, where giving is some sort of side activity, not the structure itself. Giving comes from people of privilege, and taking is from those in need. There's a hierarchy. And I'm the first to admit, at the early stages of our movement, a lot of that is still going to be basically true, but we got to be able to wrap our minds around it differently. None of it is transactional. People create, they share, they care for one another, not for pay, not for credit, not to go to heaven, not for any external reason, but just because that's how a humane economy ought to work. It's not even altruism. It's literally a redesign. And the benefits are many. Because one, it supports us while we destroy the old system through boycotts and strikes. It mitigates the pain and suffering that otherwise would be caused by those long-term boycotts and strikes. Two, over time, it renders the profit makers virtually obsolete. We've supported each other during these strikes and boycotts of protest, not just to ask the powerful elite to please be nice to us and to meet our demands. No, we're not asking them for anything. We are out to destroy them. And I think this is where maybe I lose some people. But I'm going to be very honest about what we're after here. We are all about destroying the current system. Capitalist, for profit. A very tiny number of people own everything and make all the rules, and the rest of us beg for scraps at the table. A lot of people in this country are still happy with that. I'm not. So, the bank model, the library model, the idea of the commons, all under the umbrella of mutual aid, number one, protects the most vulnerable during this tumultuous time of transition. Number two, it destroys the old model. And number three, it creates a new model that we can build on going forward. People over profits. See, I don't think this is utopian. I don't think it's a dream. I think it's eminently practical, doable, and I don't think we have to wait one more minute. All of these models already exist all over the country. You can find spots. Every major city, every area has mutual aid societies. We know full well there are food banks. There are tool and appliance libraries. I'm not pulling things just out of thin air here. All of these things are happening right now. There's open source software, all sorts of sharing going on. But right now it's a tiny, tiny fraction of the overall economic activity in this country. We need to all get on board and make it the dominant form of economy. And as I said, right now, I totally understand. The sharing world still depends on the profit world. People buy from the for-profit retailers, and then they donate to community spaces. I get it. That's a starting point. It doesn't need to be our ending point. We have to close that loop. Because as more and more individuals, and more importantly, groups, whole entities, whole industries, ultimately, as more of us join the alternative systems, the private profit model shrinks. And then even they see the writing on the wall. And eventually, production and distribution inside the sharing system can begin to sustain itself. And maybe this is another point where I lose you, because I can hear your objections. But think about the potential growth of this. First, it's just individuals. And then it's a whole group of individuals. It's a whole a food co-op. It's a CSA farmer, community-supported agriculture, independent farmer. And then some people get together and form a food co-op. And it's all either free or pay what you can. And the farmer needs some repair on his tractor, and he finds another member of the community. That's what he does. I've got a neighbor right here in River West who takes old lawnmowers, fixes them, and gives them to anybody who needs it. There's no idea of barter. Get that concept out of your mind entirely. There's no exchange. There's no transaction. He just does it. So the farmer now has his repairs done because a member of the community just believes in this kind of society, believes in this kind of economy. A whole bunch of mechanically inclined people get together who enjoy doing this kind of work. A few of them leave some very high-paying jobs in order to be free, and they put together a repair service. Pretty soon you have this great repair service that anyone in the community can go to. The mechanics know that they can go down to the local food co-op and get their groceries for the week for their family. There's another whole network of technicians and experts providing free open source software and internet capabilities. Everybody in this new system can go down to the local lending library, get any of the material needs they require. It starts out small. It starts out depending on, going to the for-profit. But as it grows, the old economy, and we're going to need a new word for this, by the way. Let's table that for the moment. We're going to need a new word for economy. But the old one is going to lose its grip. When enough people turn their back on it, they'll have no choice. They'll have to adapt or just fade away. And this basic model expands beyond individuals. It expands beyond the small, specialized interests, but into whole institutions. schools, cooperatives, artisans, factories, transportation systems, until at some point, every stage of the process, from the raw materials, from the production and distribution and recycling, can all operate under this commons-based model, where goods and services are distributed through banks and libraries. Sharing replaces exchange, and volunteerism replaces wage labor as the default relationship to work. Everybody wants to work, everybody wants to contribute, everybody wants to be a productive part of society. You'll never convince me otherwise. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody except for a few degenerates who are going to lay on their couch and do nothing. And you know what we're going to say to them? Good luck, I love you. You can come get food at the co-op just like everybody else. That's going to be a tough one too. Maybe I just lost a few people there. You know what? There are going to be a few people, a tiny, tiny minority, who just take advantage. And the rest of us have to say, geez, you poor bastard. I don't know what happened to you, but we love you just the same. And here's a really good world we built, and you're welcome to live in it. And come help out whenever you want. That might require a whole nother half hour of talking about this. It gets into, philosophy, psychology. So, like I say, we'll table that for now. But we're going to be okay with that. There are going to be a few people, yeah. I don't think you'd be one of them. Would you lay on a couch and do nothing? If we were able to successfully build this world where everybody voluntarily contributed their talents, their skills, their labor, and it was understood that we all shared the benefits of our work, would you lay on a couch and not do anything? I don't think you would. I don't think you would. So we can build this alternative while we are dismantling the old system of exploitation. We don't need to destroy first and then build later. No, we build it right now. Alternative systems. And as our new world thrives, the old one crumbles under its own irrelevance. What used to be thought of as charity now becomes just a baseline for a functioning society. We take what we need, we give what we can. We work. We support each other. There's nothing more natural, nothing more human. Now, of course, you can expect resistance. Those who profit from the current system will definitely fight us. They won't let go quietly. They'll try to criminalize mutual aid. They'll attack co-ops. They'll try to create a twisted narrative where solidarity is depicted as subversion. Oh yeah, they will. But history shows us that when enough people create and share a new way of living, nothing can stop it. Through the entire history of humankind, there's no stopping progress. Not in the end. And yes, there are fights. Yes, there are struggles. Yes, there are really tough periods of transformation where there can be suffering and pain. So I'm asking you, I'm asking all of us to do everything possible to reject the old model and embrace the new. And let's make this transition as painless as possible. And for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our children, as rapid as possible. Because the slide into fascism is real, and it's happening, and it relies entirely on our surrender and our participation with their rules. We don't have to eat the rich. We don't have to put them in the guillotine. We just need to build alternate systems and quite literally ignore them into obsolescence. I'm not going to pretend I know how long this will take, but I think the beauty of it is that every individual and every group that adopts this lifestyle and philosophy will benefit immediately. I opened talking about sacrifice. Yeah, if a certain kind of comfort and luxury that you've grown accustomed to has become something that you can't do without, then I suppose in a way, yeah, you are going to sacrifice. You're going to be hurt. But I believe deep in my heart that committing to this life, this alternate life, will not be the least bit of a sacrifice. It'll be just the opposite. What we gain through a more direct relationship with each other, with our communities, with our food, what we lose, the dependency on that boss, the pressure, the indignity of wage slavery. Even if you just take one small step, it'll lead to the next step. And at each step, I believe the benefits will far outweigh what now seems like sacrifice or pain. And yeah, I don't know how long it'll take. The concept of Moore's law, when change happens exponentially and you get that hockey stick line on the graph, that could happen. It could take off. This thing could happen in a couple of years. Or it might take a few generations. I don't know. But either way, it would be absolutely worth it. Even if, God forbid, in the end we lose, it would still have been worth it. The benefits of people over profit are incalculable. From our innermost individual mindset all the way to a transformed globe. And even if the bad guys win in the end, the worthiness and the benefits of the fight are 100% worth it. And I don't think we will lose. I think we'll win. And I think it'll be sooner rather than later. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for considering these ideas. I'm Charles Purcell. This episode and all episodes can be heard on your favorite podcast platform, or go to the website charlespurcell.com. Follow us on Substack and Blue Sky. Thanks to our flagship station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song.